It's obviously a somber day at the Capitol, Officer Evans lying in state, but it's a reminder that, if we want to honor those that serve this country, we can't just honor them during their time of service. That honoring them means taking care of them. You can't support the troops and then abandon them when the troops need support. And I think that's what we're all doing here today. We're trying to demonstrate that there is an urgent issue in terms of veterans' care that needs to be addressed through congressional action. If you come home from war and you have a physical wound and you end up at Walter Reed Bethesda, right? You'll get world-class care in terms of adaptive rehabilitation and prosthetics. Unfortunately, Walter Reed Bethesda is world-class in dealing with injuries of war because they've had to deal with them so often. But if you have a toxic wound, and I'm telling you, the toxic wounds are as real as any physical wound that you would get from war, they don't know what to do with you. And you spend your time when you come back home basically as a defendant in a trial for your own health care and your health. Forget about, we can get into an argument about in this country, man, nobody should be in a position where their health comes into play when it's their decision to whether they can keep their house or have a car or any of the things that unfortunately people have to go through in this country. But damn, for those that have fought and defended and served this country, for them to come home and have to fight against the very government that they volunteered to defend is immoral. It's unconscionable, and it's easily remedied. And they don't need to be put through another bureaucratic process and another clerical process. They don't need another study to determine whether or not it might not be that healthy to burn everything in sight 24 hours a day, 7 days a week next to where you're sleeping. We know it because you're not allowed to do it in the United States of America. And if you go on the EPA's website, they'll tell you explicitly some of the diseases that are correlated to those exposures. But if you serve overseas and you come home, or you serve in general and you've been exposed to toxic waste or any of those things, it's a battle. Man, we've still got Vietnam War veterans fighting to get diseases covered for Agent Orange. This has to stop. They don't need a concession of exposure. They don't need a presumptive process to exposure. They need presumption. Presumption of exposure to toxicity, and they need the health care and benefits associated with that. Veterans are human beings. They're not just flags. They're not just bumper stickers. They're human beings. And as you hear their stories, you hear the true cost of war. And I urge you when this is over to please seek them out and hear their stories individually and amplify them so that the country can understand. These men and women swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, what do you do when you've fulfilled that obligation and you come home and the enemy is now negligence and bureaucracy and apathy? They're not trained for that. The VA has one job: to act for the benefit of the veteran. That's it. You're not an insurance company. You're not an obstacle to care. You are there to act for the benefit of the veteran. And if the culture doesn't change, then we will continue to make the same mistake we've clearly made decade after decade after decade, forcing more suffering and disease when it needn't be the case. I want to thank everybody for being here today, all the VSOs whose tremendous hard work is what has brought this legislation to the fore, and I think will give it the energy and the impetus to pass.